Okay, so we have this little practicals on heat maps, and we actually introduced heat maps in the last practical. So just got the example up, and here we have the different variables, and we've got correlations between the variables between 1 and -1, and the shade depends on the correlation on a variable chart. That's essentially a heat map, a specific type of heat map. So we're going to cover heat maps in general. So let's go back to the code I got for the example. And we've got a data set which is on bookstores. And you can see here that we have basically the bookstore and the book type. So this is just a sales list, and we've got different stores and we have different categories of products. And we want to do a little chart, detailing the quantity of each book type and of each bookstore. So to get this data, we actually start off with a table. So we use our table command. We used a good 2 times before, which is my data bookstore and my data book type. And you can see here that we have, for example, store 1 and children's books, we have 24 sold. Store 2 and travel guide, we have 14 sold. Now, what we're going to do is going to divide by the row sums. And again, I think I've shown you this function before. It's just the sum of the items in the row. And note, when we did the prop dot table before, that made everything add up to 1. Here, if we divide by the sum of the row, each row adds up to 1. So we've got essentially here the proportion of each category in each store. So in store 1, self-help books only were like 9.6% of sales, but science fiction was 18.5%. But in store 3, self-help is 15.7% of sales, and science fiction is 19.2%. So we've essentially got it to a proportion, but only a proportion so that the rows add up to 1. And we're going to turn it but this is basically just the format for the heat map. We're going to turn it into a matrix. Remembering R, as dot something converts it into a certain type. A matrix is just a little bit like a data frame, but it's primarily for numeric values, while a data frame has kind of quite a different range. It has like text and factors and numbers. So a matrix is just a numeric table. So we have a heat map function. So let's just question heat map. This is an inbuilt function. And basically, we give it a matrix of the values to be plotted. We can send it various things like the names. Here we're sending it the colors, and we're just sending it heat.colors. So we're sending it a list of variable colors and going from the lowest to the highest. Okay, so basically the scale is whether we want to scale the numbers. If we want to center them and divide by the standard deviation, we're not bothering with that. CX col and CX row just determine the size of the labels. Row V and col V, they basically, this is something from cluster analysis. We're not going to cover this from the last week, but it kind of draws linkages between parts of the table, but don't worry about that. But we have to set them to NA. So let's just do the heat map. And there we go. We're going from, using this set of colors, we're going from white to red with high heat. I mean, it's honestly not the best thing in the world. I'm going to show you how to do a better thing with ggplot. We could maybe play around a little bit with this. Let's just make our columns a little bit bigger. The column names, so we can see a little bit more there, for example. Now we can actually set our own manual colors and basically just have a look at the values. So let's just have my data dot matrix. Let's just look at the values in the matrix. And you can see everything's between, say, 0 and about 0.3. So we create a set of breaks. and a set of colors. Here's our colors. So we've got like multiple oranges, reds, and red 1 and red 3. And now we actually send the colors. The colors are associated with the breaks, and everything else is the same as before. And there we go. So we can see again that the red is kind of the highest. So store 4 and these labels, the labels reverted to 0.75. They really were better at 1. Okay, so here's the one I did. I did one with ggplot, as that's what I do for most of my plotting. Firstly, we've got to convert our table not into a matrix, but into a data frame. So here we go. Here's my table data frame. And you can see here, this format's changed. It's the data frame. We've got the variable 1 is the store, variable 2 is the book, and then we have the, what was the frequency is the proportion. I actually want to give it better values, so I'm going to change the column names here to bookstore, book type, and value. Here we go, bookstore, book type, value. And let's do ggplot. So we want X is going to be to match what the one in the book. X is the type of the book, Y is the type of the store. And then we're going to fill based on the value. Now we're going to use geom_tile. That's basically the ggplot for the heat map. We're going to create a title proportion of sales by book type. Now there's actually a very nice function. We said these scale color and scale fill functions allow you to set colors in ggplot. There's one that allows you to set the low color. We're going to do red, and the high is green. I'm also going to add some text, so I can use geom text to actually put the labels in. Now, if I didn't do this, if I didn't round them, then I would just get a mess. But if you look at the round of the values, let me just I'm going to have to put this. But this would be the rounded versions of the values. So I'm just going to geom text. The label is the round of the value in the my table data frame. I'm going to make them white, and I'm going to set them to be a certain size. And then my usual. And let's have a look at what we created. So it was my challenge to create one that looked nicer than the one in the textbook. And here we are. This is my attempt. Rate it out of 10. So basically, we've got the book types. We go from red is low to green is high. So this was my attempt to create one with a little bit like the Excel version in the book. And it actually has the values of the proportions. So you can see romance and store 2 is pretty much the highest proportion. So you can kind of see in a certain store which categories are doing well, green, and which categories are doing poorly, red. And you can see store 1, self-help, which I flagged before, is actually the lowest value, the lowest of the lows.